following the one thing will actually lead you to all the things you want. You don't have to do as much side missions as you really think you do. That's what I found out about life, I think.
Yeah. Welcome to the Council of Dudes podcast. I'm your host, Vinny Brusco. I am a father, a husband, the founder of Agora Social Club, purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a certified life coach, and a facilitator of the Council of Dudes men's group. This podcast is here to help you tap into and follow your golden thread, that feeling that pulls you forward to become the best version of yourself. If you're someone who's into personal development and self-help and is looking to live a life of more alignment, then this is the podcast for you. Subscribe to the channel, click the notification button, and follow along on the journey of the show.
What's good? It's Bliz, and you're checking out the Council of Dudes podcast.
And here we go.
Sound check for me every day.
Is that how it is?
Yeah. Every venue or whatever, there's always something with someone, something, some piece missing, something broke on the flight.
I get so, and it's real. And I've come to realize it's really about my own relationship with things like that. Like, I don't like tech. All that stuff frustrates me, but it's really about my relationship with it, where I get frustrated, and it's a reflection of just my own incompetence, where I get mad about it.
Definitely. I've learned over the years to just like zoom out and kind of relax through whatever the issue is. You know what I mean? Because if not, it can just add so much stress to whatever you got going on.
Right, and unnecessary stress, because it's a factor that you can't take into place, right? It is what it is. You have to work around it and figure it out, and it will figure itself out, but it's so easy to get caught up in that space of frustration.
Definitely. I think frustration is when you're angry that you can't control something. You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
It manifests that way, and you're like, oh,
fuck. Son of a. So we were at a family member's wedding.
Mm-hmm. Quite a while ago now.
It was. Was it like 2 summers ago?
It might have been more than that, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. Time flies.
And we were talking, and we've always kind of stayed in touch in the outskirts of, social media and just whatever. And we were talking, and I said to you, I don't know how it came up, but you were talking about what you're doing and the journey you're on. And I said, which has become a real mantra in my life, so you're following the golden thread. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the reaction you had was so authentic, and you knew exactly what I was saying in that moment.
Yeah.
It was like
it was a very cool moment. I was explaining that moment today. So,
yeah. How did you explain it? Because from my perspective, it was just I was like, oh, he's there.
Exactly. I was explaining to my friends, that I'm on the road with. I'm like, I'm just going to see my cousin and do a podcast with him, and they were like asking something, and I was like, yeah, it's just we were at a wedding, and we just realized we're on the same wavelength.
Right.
That's really how I put it. We're just on the same kind of, same kind of belief system as far as following the golden thread and just seeing what the universe has and that kind of thing. So it was a cool moment, man, because it's like it's different when it's family. You know what I mean? When you're related to someone and then you realize they're looking at life a similar way. So yeah. It's cool.
What brought you on that journey to say like this is the path I'm on? Because it's definitely a long, arduous, deep, self-reflective, personal development path.
Right.
And when you say that to someone, they may look at you, and maybe there's a feeling behind that golden thread, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what we encapsulated in that moment. But what brought you to that kind of realization that I'm on this path of the golden thread?
I think I've been on the path before I realized I was on that path. Just when I was probably. Before I was probably even 15, I feel like I had some idea of what I wanted to do forever. I knew it was music. When I was 9, I found a guitar under my dad's bed, and I had that interest right away in something. And so, like, I didn't always realize that other people didn't have an idea of what they wanted to do, or just that independence from normality and what we now call, like, the Matrix kind of thing. I've just kind of always been like that. So for a while, it was actually kind of difficult for me to just exist in like normal life. I just grew up kind of strange. I was homeschooled. My dad was, a pastor at a Christian church, I felt isolated from a lot of like normal things, and for a while that bothered me. But at some point, I just, like I said before, I really knew it was, before I had like a more energetic view of it, I was just kind of like, fuck authority, fuck normal shit, fuck what anyone has to say. It's okay if I curse.
Yeah, of course.
So, you know, I was just like not interested in following a normal path. So I did that, and I just was kind of naturally gifted young, plus I applied the work. And I would say my probably early 20s is when I started to like really look into spirituality, look past what I was taught, which is Christianity, and just try to understand kind of like the inner workings of the universe a little bit. And, you know, it's shout out to my girlfriend Talii. She really is super versed in energy and spirituality. And when I met her, I was like kind of like maybe, and I still believe in a lot of Christian values and what Jesus represents, but I was just coming out of like just believing what I'm told and not asking questions. I was coming out of that era of my life, and she was introducing me to, you know, just some of the other inner workings of the universe and things, and that's kind of, I think, when my awakening, so to speak, started in that regard, where I started to look into mindfulness and stuff. Actually, you know what? Let me back up a little before that. I read Eckhart Tolle's book. I'm trying to remember the name of the book now.
Power of Now?
Power of Now.
Yeah, I have it in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was it was more of like introduction to like mindfulness first before it was like spirituality.
Sure.
So if I'm being honest, I found that book before I met her, and then she really activated looking even further into, you know, chakras or energy centers, Joe Dispenza, you know, all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, I love that stuff. Rabbit holes of depth and perception.
Yeah, quantum.
Oh,
you know, yeah.
Yes. And it's interesting because at such a young age, I mean, I think growing up in something that you perceived as outside the norm, right, based off of norms and expectations of culture, right, now led you to be a place where you were able to embrace being outside of the norm, pursuing something that maybe most outsiders would look and say, "What, he's doing what? He's pursuing music. Like, all right, now get a real job."
Yeah, my dad to this day always says, "I don't know how you do what you do." Not in a negative way, but just like he's like, "I don't know how you would." You know, because it's not a glamorous thing on the come up of it, you know. So he's like, I don't know how you could go that long without getting a check or whatever it might, or not knowing when the check is going to come in or something like that. And I've literally forgot that I got used to that, you know, at this point. You know?
Yeah.
So
it's just become a part of your like everyday life.
Yeah, yeah. And now I really don't feel like I have to worry much anymore. We'll talk more about that, but you know, I feel like I finally got to a point by pulling that thread, by following that thread, you know, it's just like following the one thing will actually lead you to all the things you want. You don't have to do as much side missions as you really think you do. That's what I found out about life, I think.
Yeah, it's like Grand Theft Auto. If you just stick to the main game, you'll get through it. But if you start getting a haircut for 3.5 hours at the barbershop, you're not getting the missions done.
Exactly. So.
But being able to find the guitar underneath the bed at 9, which I think, you know, it's funny, you know, having 2 small children, my daughter's 9, my son's 5, you see, you know, I talk about this a lot, but you see the essence of a child and you see the purity that they have and the relationship that they have with the world and with the universe at such a young age. And as they start to get to that 8, 9 years old is really the point where I'm seeing it now. My daughter, you do start to see the impact that culture has and school has and friends have and being around all these different people.
Right, their little identities are forming. And
exactly.
Stuff.
You start to see it, and it's a beautiful thing to see, but it's also kind of sad because you do see the purity of them dissolving out of them like a balloon slowly deflating.
Yeah, it's crazy. You're right.
And you found that at such an important age, and to like when you, I'm sure looking back, when you touched that guitar, you know, it was probably just this like, whoa. Like,
yeah, just the sound that came out. I kind of tuned it, not the real way you tune it, but like I somehow knew to tune it to itself so that it wasn't out. It was, you know, it wasn't like painful like a cat meow kind of thing.
Right.
And I would just sit there and kind of mess around. I think that my parents noticed, and they were like, you know.
Yeah. And to have that support from them.
Yeah, that's another thing. You know, I really had great support. They were like, they put me in lessons immediately after I was showing the interest, and And I was the first lesson was difficult for me, but then I started to get into it, and my teacher started to be like excited to teach me. I was really grasping all the concepts and stuff. So
Did you ever break away from it at any point?
I would say I slowed down around 16, but it wasn't. It was breaking away from the educational aspect of it, and I was starting to implement it more. I never really stopped playing. I was just tired of learning. Like I was like already pretty experienced in like, the knowledge of it, and just not applying it as much. I wanted to start to play, outside of church and things like that. So around that time, I was in different groups, gospel groups, whatever bands, simultaneously in like club bands, because all those guys double up.
Right.
You're in the club on Friday and Saturday,
And then
church
on
Sunday
Sunday
morning.
morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your favorite kind of? Because you do a kind of a mixed genre, right? Like you have like a funk, a vibe.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
There's what was kind of some of the influences that you had at those early ages, and how has it kind of evolved into what you're doing now?
So there's different hats I wear right now. So there's like me, the artist, that the music that I make, that I sing on, and then there's also me, the producer, that helps other artists find their sound and become who they are. So I've listened to a wide variety of music. So when it comes to me as an artist, Michael Jackson, Prince, I know those are obvious names, but what's his name? Bobby Caldwell, like just Teddy Pendergrass, Fred Paris and the Five Satins, just all these different R&B, Stevie Wonder, all these different R&B, 80s, Journey. My parents used to play Journey all the time. Steve Perry's crazy voice, crazy songwriter. So I just like, I loved listening to them. I also love listening to like, a little bit later, I like love listening to like Katy Perry. And I just love pop music so much. I loved format. I loved how like they psychologically were able to make earworms, and you listen to it once, right? You hear the song, you hear the hook, and then by the time the verse is done and you get back to the next hook, you know it. You know the hook, you remember it. That's a catchy song. Yeah, it's hard to not know it. And then when you leave, you try to act tough, like you don't like it, and then you leave and you're like, she's just, her and Luke, Dr. Luke, and everybody that she worked, Max Martin, everybody she worked with is just amazing. So I'm kind of obsessed over that and applied some of those newer formats to some of that older music, and that's for myself. But a lot of the other R&B, and hip hop and things like that, I definitely applied to help other artists as well. So I feel like just my background has helped me to really wear a different hat, or kind of be as my buddy Icee says, become a sonic chameleon,
And then when you're working with other artists, it's easy to kind of want to put in your input and have your perspective on things, but then you also want to honor their journey and what they're going through and how they're kind of interpreting the music and stuff. So what's the relationship with other artists?
I work the best with people that I know well, and it's because I can kind of become them. I kind of try to become them. I try to think through their eyes and mind and heart and their emotions. I try to think about the ingredients. I like to eat, so I think about music and food very similarly. So I try to think about like what's your background. Like you like R&B music, but you have some Hispanic heritage. Like put a couple bongos in there or something like that, just to just a random example. Yeah. But like, yeah, I try to like really, I use my taste, I use my opinion if it's needed and stuff like that. But again, I know the difference between like my music and then like the shared experience, and it's different. It's definitely two different things. So at first, collaborating is difficult, I would say. Once you master your craft a little bit, it's difficult to collaborate with people because you have a process, you have expectations, you have things you like, and it takes that relinquishing, full control. It takes letting go of that a little bit to truly collaborate, because sometimes there's an idea that's better than yours, and when you can really sit back and let the song be what it wants to be, that's always the best song, in my opinion.
Well, I think having the perspective of the journey and the golden thread ties into that beautifully, because there is also this letting go that you have to allow to transpire when you're working in conjunction with the universe, right? You have to be able to, whether it be God, source, universe, the force, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
You know, there is this letting go that you have to allow to transpire and take place, and have faith and trust in what's happening.
Yeah.
And it's almost the same relationship you have with, you know, the music. You have to kind of have faith in what's happening, how it's happening, and just let go of it. But that relinquishing of power, whether it be on a spiritual level or on a production level, is one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. It's a constant like loop for me in music and life, whatever, where I'll realize I'm freaking out. I'll realize I'm panicking again. I'll realize I'm trying to control something. I'll be in like a beautiful state of like, whatever happens, happens. And then before you know it, I'm like, I can't believe this shit. And then you're like, oh, wait. I'm literally good no matter what, you know?
Yeah.
Because we are. I believe it. I believe that.
We are. Yeah. And I think having that relationship with the unknown, but then also having that default to we're good no matter what.
Yeah. I came up with this little thing that I, again, constantly forget and have to remember. But let's say you're, you know, you're planning a surprise party for your wife, and your wife is like, you know, you're doing some things in secret, and she's noticing that, and all of a sudden she becomes suspicious, and she's trying to like investigate what's going on, and you're like kind of like, oh, like don't, you know, nothing.
Right.
What's going on? And then you're finally like, I was throwing you a surprise party, but you ruined it, right? That's us with Source or whatever. A lot of the time, tell me what's next for me, you know. But a surprise party is like, if you're just patient, if you just leave it alone, if you know nothing, that's the biggest reward when you do experience that surprise. So if you look at life like a surprise party instead of being left in the dark, or like life is cheating on you,
Right.
It's just two different perspectives, you know? So sometimes I feel like life is cheating on me, and other times I remember it's throwing me a surprise party, actually.
That's a really good analogy.
Thank you.
I like
Thank
that.
you. It helps me.
No, but it's true, though, because, you know, it's so easy to get caught up in that I need to know, right? Because the unknown, and it's kind of been an arc of what's been happening and the conversations I've been having, especially with like coaching clients. It's been an arc of like needing to know the unknown, right? Like, and it's understandably so that we'd want to know. We want to know what's happening, what's going on. Like it makes sense that we'd want to know. But on the other side of the unknown is two things, right? It's unlimited opportunity or complete fear and disaster. And it's a matter of which way you want to lean into it. I've told the story before, but my daughter fairly recently asked me if I was afraid of death. And I said, do you want the dad answer? Do you want the real answer? And she's like, I want the real answer. I said, I'm not afraid of death. And she looked at me like baffled. She's like, like what? And I said, you know, I don't want to die, but I think that I would hope that the work I've put into life, and I believe that you die the way you lived, right, is that, you know, I have a better relationship with the unknown than probably most people walking around. Not
right.
But
well, you know, you've done the work.
I've done the work. I've sat in the darkness. I go into sensory deprivation tanks. I meditate. And it's not to say if they knocked on the door and said, hey, you're dying tomorrow, I'd be like, oh, okay, I'd accept it.
Right, no. It would still suck.
But right, exactly. But the fear of it doesn't stop me in my tracks.
Yeah. I have that conversation with myself when I fly, even though I fly a lot. Like, I'll be like, all right, you know. And I mean, it's just a weird thing because I know driving is even worse than flying for you, apparently. But, you know, I'll just be like, okay, like, I could, and I'm good, you know. Like, I have to just have that. I've had that so many times. I kind of don't have that anymore, but I've had that convo so many times. Like, could the world end? Could something crazy happen to where I'm the last person on earth? Could I be happy? Could I somehow find happiness? You know, and I go there.
Yeah.
And it makes everything else better.
well, I think it's important to go there because, and maybe not to that measure, but, you know, in if you remove all the joys of life, can you still be happy? I mean, you look at Viktor Frankl and Man's Search for Meaning, right? The man's in 7 concentration camps, right? And survived them. And you know, his whole thing is that, you know, can you find something in whatever's going on to persevere through? Like, can you still have choice in that matter?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you do.
And people unfortunately do choose to lean into the comfortability of a job or to career, and then they end up living lives of quiet desperation, and they don't. There's quotes everywhere.
No, I love him though.
And they don't pursue that golden thread, or it comes and they go, it's too risky.
Yeah. Or you start, and then you start to follow it. You start getting things start changing around to bring you to what you want, and because they change, you're like, never mind.
It's your self-sabotage.
Yeah, but really that changing is like what's bringing you to what you want, literally. Like things have to move around to manifest the new thing that you want,
Yeah. In the Eckhart Tolle book, I remember him speaking about, I think, the silence that underlies everything. And he was talking about like being at the park and the birds chirping and there being silence. I remember when I first heard that, I remember thinking to myself, like, what? Like, I couldn't conceptually wrap my head around there being a silence beneath the noise, right? But the more I've dove into personal development, self-help, and, just meditation and all that stuff, it's not so much that there's a silence, but there is this depth to things beyond the noise, beyond the human experience, that if you could tap into that, right, it's almost like an endless time portal.
Yeah. It's kind of trippy.
It's very trippy. And it's hard to, and again, when you have these conversations with people, again, at a wedding, it was like towards the end of the night anyway, we were just kind of like, shooting the shit. But you could say that to so many people, and they have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
Right.
They're like, oh yeah, the golden thread. But it was in an instant, you're like, yeah, like it was an energetic transaction.
Exactly, 100%. 100%.
Welcome to Agora Social Club, the Westchester's hub for guys to gather, connect, and unwind. In the last 6 years, I've been facilitating a men's group called the Council of Dudes. And within that 6 years, I've realized that guys need a place where they can get together, connect, and build community. A place that's not the gym, that's not jujitsu, that's not the bar, but a place where guys can come with no ego and grow and develop together. So here we have our chess table. We're gonna be having monthly chess lessons and our take a book, leave a book library. Some of these I've read, some of these I haven't. Quantum physics to personal development to fiction. We also have our record player area. In the last few years, I've become very obsessed with jazz music. And if you don't know how to play vinyl, no big deal. It hooks up to your phone via Bluetooth. We have artwork from California to local artists. We have these small little work tables. So if you want to hang on the couch and get some work done, you can just come pop them open. And we also have our little workspace here with quotes from Muhammad Ali, Albert Einstein, Theodore Roosevelt. We also have our coffee bar, small fridge, and more quotes and artwork over the wall. Head on over to agorasocialclub.com, sign up for our free 7-day trial, and with that, you will get a key fob. Scan your key fob, and you have access to this space from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. So if you're a guy in the Westchester area and you're looking to gather, connect, and unwind with like-minded men, head on over to agorasocialclub.com and sign up.
Could be. But I'm just not. I'm just like, I've lost episodes before. And you're like,
no, that hurts. That hurts. Yeah, I've been made a whole beat, and then it's crashed, and I've lost the whole beat before, and then like, you just kind of gotta be like, okay, I'm just gonna make it again, or I'm gonna not do music today.
Yeah, or
kind of one or the other.
Or it's gonna come out better than it would have.
Usually
before.
does.
It usually does.
I'm usually just like, okay, I can go this way. Exactly.
You start to see all right,
Yeah.
I was actually listening to I'm taking a course on leadership and elders, and there's this guy, Michael Mead, and he talks a lot about leadership and elders and all that stuff, and he talks about this cave, and it's, long story short, there's a woman in a cave, and in the cave, she's weaving the most beautiful thread and blanket that's ever been known to man, and there's a pot in the back that has all the herbs and spices and plants and everything that's ever existed. And she goes to stir the pot because she has to stir the pot in order for these things to exist. And the dog that's in the cave goes ahead and pulls apart the cloth that she was weaving. And she goes, and it's a long story, but she goes and starts weaving it again, and it's even more beautiful this time.
Yeah, and then like you needed that part of it.
Because you don't realize when you're in the midst of making things that there's also an opportunity to make it even better.
Yeah, I mean that's like a long form, a short form metaphor for a long form thing in our lives. which is like you said, in following the golden thread, it's not always like good. It's like sometimes it's painful, but the thing that makes you, that scares you, or the thing that, the thing that's crashing and burning in your life, and you're just like desperately trying to like piece it together. It's like, that might not be working, and it might be pointing you there. It might be pointing you over there. You know what I'm trying to say? So it's like that little happy accident, Bob Ross used to say. But
yeah. He did. I forgot about the happy accidents.
There's big happy accidents too,
Yeah. And again, to your point, that pull, and it's hard to put words behind the golden thread. It's hard to put like actual words behind it, because it isn't necessarily it's a feeling. Mm-hmm. It's a feeling and a pull that takes you to the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
I was facilitating the men's group, and that's what really sparked it for me. I was facilitating the men's group, and I remember I went home. I was in the group, and I literally felt like this piece of golden yarn was coming out of my chest and going through the room. I almost saw it. It was like a scene out of Donnie Darko.
Donnie Darko, yeah, I was gonna say.
And I went home and I said to my wife, I was like, I feel so full. Like I feel like I just had a Thanksgiving dinner. And then I was watching an episode of Rogan. He had Jordan Peterson on, and he started talking about the thread of life and how it leads you to. And then Carl Jung has the golden shadow, so I was like, oh, this is a real fucking thing. Like what I experienced is real. It's older than time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's mythological.
Yeah.
Right? But it's real. And it's so, when you tap into that feeling and that thing, it's so hard to not just follow it.
It's true. It's true. It's led me to so many other people that are following it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like that being around that amplifies and guides you even better on that path. It literally like some days you're gonna forget, like we talked about, and then another person who's also on that type of thing, they might be on like a different part of their rotation. Because we all rotate in and out of this mindfulness. It's just true. It might get better and better as you get more mindful, but I just think
you
it's
just
great.
Rebound better.
Yeah, exactly. That's really what it is. Yeah.
I use the metaphor of surfing a lot, where like you catch a wave and you ride this wave for as long and as hard and as brilliantly as you can, but ultimately it's going to crash. Like it's just what waves do.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not a matter of just getting on the next immediate wave. It's so humanistic to want to be like, I gotta get on the next, I gotta do it again. And we start white knuckling we try to white knuckle and, squeeze the square peg in the round hole. It's so easy to want to feel compelled to do that.
Yeah.
But, the surfer kind of sits on his board and lets the wave come and lets the wave come.
You definitely don't want to swim against it.
You don't want to swim against it. And then all of a sudden you catch it.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not as long, and maybe it's not as hard, and it's not as gnarly as a wave, but you catch one.
And that reminds me of some good advice I've gotten, which is like, when you're not sure what to do, don't do anything. And obviously like there's other advice about like taking action and motivating yourself blindly and stuff, but I'm more so like in a decision, sometimes you just have to be in that stillness, like you said. So it's like that's kind of like the moment where you're like on the board just chilling. Like, I don't know what to do, but then you're going to see the wave coming and you get to ride that.
Yeah. What do you do to capture like that stillness? Like, do you do any meditating, journaling?
Definitely. I'm on loops with everything,
Who isn't?
Yeah. So I definitely recently just like started reading my journaling from a while ago, because I fell off of it again. So I was like, oh wow, I was going through this a year ago, but in a different way. And I call it energetic anniversary. I feel like there really are like time moves this way. I feel like time moves, and instead of like forward, I feel like it's like cylindrical. And so I feel like there's times where you're feeling an emotion from a past time, and sometimes it might line up from a year ago or whatever, 10 years ago. I'm like, oh, I'm 33. That's 20 years after I'm 13. That's a very transformative time in your life, stuff like that. But anyway, journaling, meditation. I like the sauna. I haven't gotten too much into the cold plunges. I do the showers, but I really do want to.
Oh yeah.
I go for really long walks. I've been trying to manage in my diet. I definitely, I would say like I stress eat a lot of the time. I'll get into those loops as well. So I'm coming off of you know, I'm probably a couple weeks into like hitting the gym way more often. I wanted to hit this tour like I'm gonna lose weight on this tour, and I'm doing great so far. So I'm happy about that.
That's great.
Yeah, man, I do that, and then I just have conversations like this with my bros. That really, really, truly helps too, because I think we can all like sense when we're off kilter a little bit now.
Yeah.
That's how tight we are, you know?
Yeah, getting into almost having these moments, and I've done the same thing where I've read my journals before.
Yeah,
you
it's
go back
cool.
and you read them, and you're kind of like, oh, I'm a psychopath. First off, I'm a lunatic, but secondly, it's the same thing but manifesting in this new way.
Yeah.
And like in the 3D space that we're interfacing with, it's like, oh, this is the same shit I was going through X amount of years ago, but now it's just this new version of it.
Yeah, it kind of melts the BS away. It takes you out of it at least. Like I don't know about you. For me, I'll read it and I'll be like, oh yeah, okay. I forgot I already figured this out.
That's a good, yeah. I mean, you're like a fucking detective.
Yeah.
With like strings going across and fucking Post-it notes everywhere, and you're trying to solve this mystery of yourself.
One of my entries was I forgive, and then it was like 100 names of people who have done me wrong in one way or another, in my opinion.
Sure.
And then after that, I wrote, you know, whoever, you know what I mean? Just yeah.
Sure.
So I'll leave it at that. But I put all these people have hurt me because they're hurting, and my experience with them has made me who I am. Mm-hmm. And then a year later, I was like, fuck all these people, one way or another, right? Again. And then I found the paragraph, and I'm like, oh wow, I was supposed to. I said I forgave them, and I guess I didn't actually. But at least it was a step towards that, and at least I had figured out that I needed to forgive those people. So reading it again, I was like, oh yeah, like, man, I've let like at least 50 of these 100 people bother me again. You know what I mean?
It's fucked up though, because you think that you would learn the lesson, or you would it would internalize in some way, shape, or form.
Lock it in. Yeah.
Locked in, we're good. And they find its new way of creeping into your thoughts and your overall being. Although you think at that time that you did solve the problem. So I mean, I think going to the root of it is so important.
Yeah, the ego is crafty, man. I've been in a place where I've been like, man, I'm so good at meditating.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
yeah,
man, I'm so mindful.
Yeah.
That's the ego creeping back in. When you're trying to surrender that ego, it comes back in and it finds a new way, a new space to live. You know, I feel that's kind of like what you're saying, basically. You know, because the ego doesn't always even mean a cockiness. I mean, because in like logical terms, ego, oh, that guy's got an ego.
Right.
But your ego is also the thing that says like, I need to control this, or that person's doing this to me, or whatever. It's not just your view of yourself. You know?
Yeah. And it's funny because I think the more. So I had an experience recently where I was at church, and I was just kind of sitting there quietly, and I was kind of just trying to get more into that space of letting go into the experience of God, and really like work on my relationship in that regard with God, and just let it go and because I've been riding a good wave recently.
Good. Same.
And then the voice comes up. Right, and you want to call it the devil. You can call it whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
And I remember exactly what it said, and it was, "You're going to give away all your power to something you don't even know exists." Ooh. And I was like, God. I was like, shit.
That's a shitty infomercial.
I was at church. There were a group of people praying, and I was sitting there, and I was really like allowing myself to like give myself over in this regard, right? Like letting go. I was feeling it. I was like, oh, like I felt the energetic release of it. And as soon as it settled, that came up.
Yeah. I've noticed that in meditations too. Yeah.
The reluctancy.
I think it's kind of Joe Dispenza talks about how you have like a baseline like a thermostat. Who else talks about it? Bob Proctor talks about it a lot. And it's like, if your thermostat is set to 70, whatever direction you go in, that thing's gonna kick on and get you back to the temperature that you have set. So we have these like subconscious programming that actually keeps us at whatever temperature we've been set at. And it takes a lot of work and actual physical like programming that thermostat to change the temperature for you. So, for me, I'll give you a very vulnerable, honest example. I've had a lot of negative experiences playing live. I'm a really good guitar player, experienced. I love working in the studio. I mainly do music production, and sometimes because of the talent I have and the gift that I've developed, I'll get a call to do something live, and sometimes it's like a really good opportunity, and I just almost never have a great time doing it. So this time around, a great friend of mine, I've been producing with my buddies for about 4 years now. He recently had a song that we worked on go viral, and he's having a beautiful, beautiful moment right now. I want to dive into that too at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
But we had the opportunity to go take that music we made and play it, and that's why I'm here right now. We're playing at Baby's All Right in Brooklyn. We played at a few different places and playing a few more. We're going to London, Paris. It's really exciting. It's our music that we made. And a couple days before leaving, man, I was breaking down mentally. I was like, I don't know. I gotta fly with my guitar. It's just like, it's heavy. I was telling you today, it's freaking heavy as hell. Like I feel I'm overweight right now. So like flying is even more uncomfortable for me. It's draining. It's, I'm getting over being sick. You know what I mean? I'm fine, but it's in my nose, and it's just like this whole thing, right? And I was like, absolutely, everything in me wanted to not do it in a way, and that makes absolutely no sense if you really zoom out, because this is my dream from being a child, and I knew I sounded crazy. I was telling my girl all these things, all these fears or whatever, and I'm like, my body thinks I'm going on another tour that's with people that are gonna treat me like shit, and it's actually with my family. It's actually with my best friends. The guy that's at the head of it all, Icee, the artist, he treats us incredibly. He treats people that he doesn't know incredibly. It's a completely different story, but my body was trying to believe the old story, my old thermostat, my old temperature. And, I wasn't going to, like, actually not go, but I just knew I had to tell myself, like, you have to get through these feelings to get to the other side, to experience something you've never felt, to change your internal temperature. So, dude, I'm living this shit in real time right now. I really am. It's the best ever. I'm meeting people I've always wanted to meet. I'm having experiences. I'm seeing people cry in the crowd. We don't even make like emotional music. We just make like, it's like it's R&B, sexy stuff. Mm-hmm. But people are there crying because they feel it, and I'm like, wow, we're making an impact. It's not just making money or whatever it is. We're making an impact. So, yeah, man, the internal temperature is a real thing, to where, I've been playing guitar for more than I haven't, and yet I was kind of terrified to do this. And just to be honest, I just want people to know, even me, I've done, I did a virtual. It was actually during the pandemic, but it was a Grammy performance. I did it from home, but we did Grammy with Doja Cat. I toured Rod Wave in arenas. I played in front of 20,000 people at a clip 30 times in a row, like crazy stuff. But I still was scared to come back and do a 5-show tour, because I hadn't done it in a year or two. So it's just like, it's powerful, man. It's powerful. That internal thermostat will absolutely try to destroy any progress that you're trying to head towards.
When you step onto a stage, do you have, I call them deathbed moments, and they're those moments that are, and I've given this example before, but when my daughter was born, I remember surfing one time, and that's probably why I use the surfing analogy. I swallowed a lot of water, and a surfboard grazed my asshole. But prior to all of that, I was paddling out, and the sun was coming up, and I was like, my buddy was all the way out, and I was like, oh, yeah, oh, or when my daughter was born, my son too, but really my daughter was my first child.
Yeah.
you know?
It's different. Yeah.
It was so out of body that if they would have, walked in and the doctor's like, and scene, okay, we're going to give you the baby now and move the curtain and action, I would have believed it.
Yeah.
It was like the Truman Show.
Mm-hmm.
It was so out of this world that I was like, what the fuck? Do you have that when you get on stage still?
Yeah, I definitely do. When I was doing arenas with Rod Wave, I had that moment just seeing that many people, and you see like little kids and they're like, and you're like, I'm like, I don't know if you're supposed to. You know what I mean by this, but like, I don't know if you're supposed to even be in front of that many people as a person. Just like I don't know if you're supposed to be in the sky or you're supposed to be like 40 floors up as a human, biologically. So it's like such a crazy feeling to be. And when I was doing the Rod Wave tour, I was doing a solo that I actually did on his album. So I would perform it live every night. So I would get like a little shine. I would get some spotlight where I was the only person out there. He would go back, let me just rock out. People are, ah. So it was very like, that's what made me want to be an artist, because I always kind of wanted to be an artist, but I just didn't know if I really could or if I really believed in myself enough. And seeing him rock out and being up there, imagining what if it was my music though? I could finally envision it. You can kind of like, it was like manifestation practice to see that. So that was like one of those moments. And then the other one was, now we're back down to 250 people, but we're playing our music now, and it's music we wrote. We were in the crib, we were chilling, cooking up, and I'm seeing this girl. This is literally like a couple of days ago in San Francisco, and she's just standing there. And this happened in Toronto as well. A gentleman flew in from the Dominican Republic to Toronto to see us, and both of them were in absolute tears, and I was like, oh my goodness. Like I just said, it's just, you don't realize how much of an impact what you do could have on someone. So like that removed all the fear, all the worry, all the anxiety. And I was just like, no, this is like my life calling. And when you feel like you're operating your life calling, it's, the anxiety might still be there, but it's not stronger than the pull.
Yeah. The impact is more important than yourself.
Yeah, it becomes more. That's what people mean, I think, when something's bigger than you. It's like a phrase until you experience it.
Yeah,
personally.
Yeah, and it's easy to get caught up in that, man. It's easy to go back to that. I'm a great meditator. It's like,
right,
fuck
exactly.
you.
Oh, I'm just come on now. Yeah, exactly. It is.
It's easy to get caught up in that. It's easy to allow that to lead the pack, right? Lead the pack of your emotions, lead the pack of your mind, lead and lead and lead, especially when you have this relationship with yourself of being able to tap into the golden thread and being able to feel mindful and present and in the presence of people and impact their lives. It's easy for you to get ahead of yourself and allow yourself to feel bigger than you are, grander than you are. And it's only the relationship with the self and the deeper self where you can kind of hear that devil in church, and say to you, like, you're going to give up all your power to this thing you don't know exists, and listen to it. Like, sit there and like, where are you going with this?
Yeah.
And then have like when I first did the men's group, a buddy of mine was going through a lot of stuff and he reached out to me, he was like, you need to start a men's group. And I was like, I don't know anything about men's group, but cool. All right, let's, so I reached out to people who I had deeper conversations with, not this deep, but some depth.
Right.
And the first one was like 26 guys. They're like, yeah, we'll be there, right? We did it like a American Legion. And I remember I was pulling into Starbucks. I was pulling into the drive-thru, and that same voice, way less deep, and didn't have the depth of the power, but it was like, what are you doing? You don't know how to lead a men's group.
You need one.
You're gonna, you fucking idiot. You don't know what you're doing. You've never done this before. Cancel. You need to cancel. Yeah. Tell them all you have the shits, because everyone understands the shits.
Dude, that's that thermostat, man.
And cancel. And I remember pulling in and saying, I see what you're doing. Thank you. because you're trying to protect me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. But that's not what I need to do. I need to go and do this. And now 6 years later, there's this.
Beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
Proud of you, man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
This is incredible.
But there's this. And without that moment, there isn't this. I don't do the men's group for 6 years. I don't realize the call and the feeling that guys need to have community outside of a gym or outside of, drinking beer and watching football. There's no TVs in here.
Yeah.
There's no wings. There's no alcohol in here.
I love it.
And I realized that was a pull, right? That was the initial little spark. But had I listened to that, life's very different. Mm-hmm. Life's very different.
Yeah, very.
And I think that call or that feeling comes knocking again and again and again until you're on your potential deathbed and like, look what you could have been. Look what it could have been.
I can't. That's another thing that was a driving force for me. It's like, well, I can't go through life like listening to the fear because then I'll never know.
There's this great quote. Hell is when the man you could have been meets the man you end up being, or something like that.
Dang. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
It's like you see who you could, all your potential and everything that you could have done. And I think that's a really hard, because, just I call them valid humanistic excuses, right? Because, it's easy to cave to those things. I'm tired. You're on the road, whatever it is. The kids, whatever it is. It's so easy to tap into that and use, and there's validity to that, right? You are fucking tired, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You are on the road, in the plane, carrying the guitar, doing all the shit. But there's also something that you can level up past that.
Yeah.
Right? And you know your potential.
Yeah, and the irony or whatever you want to call it is that like you go through that and then possibly the next time you might not even have to, because it's going up another notch. You know what I'm saying? So it really is like I have to get through this to get to the other side. I don't know how else to put it. It's like this. There is another side. There is stuff you've never seen or never experienced until you die, I believe. Yeah. There's so much out there. I was thinking about when I went on tour the first time. I was like, I can't believe it took me this long. And I was only 30, maybe 31 at the time or something. But I can't believe it took me this long to see all these states in my own country. And that gave me a perspective on things. That gave me a perspective on why everyone argues on the internet. Because they're different-ass places, man. Your reality is catered and tailored now to your environment and shit. It's crazy.
And then your social media is catered and tailored to your environment, and your feed and everything you consume is.
But then famous shit supersedes all that, and then you see people that are always at an impasse. No, this is right. No, that is right, and it's all based on, you know what I mean? It's like it's just crazy. There's places in America that they've never seen a black person or something like that, so they don't have that same understanding that we do in cities where, you know what I'm saying, where we're like we're all humans. Are you fucking serious?
Right.
So then when they see all these this matters, and it becomes like this argument instead of just like, bro, you know what I'm trying to get at. So it's just crazy. Like people should really, I think people could live a lot more, but I think fear is what stops that, honestly.
And obviously there's culture involved in that, and there's your atmosphere and the way you're raised, and all those things have a huge impact on who you end up being, right? It's nature and nurture, right? Both those things come into play. But there is this unfortunate human experience that we're all having. And, unless you do, step onto the path of what you would call enlightenment, whatever, self-awareness, you are confined to a physical space, right? But you're not capable of shifting that energy to something bigger and something grander and something really more important.
Yeah, it's very true.
So you mentioned, obviously, you were raised Christian.
Yeah, very, very, very Christian.
very. How, like, obviously there's, I mentioned going to church and things like that, but how has that have you broken away from that, but also incorporated? Because I think that's something that I'm personally kind of like, all right, like, I go to church. I believe in, like, it's like this amalgamation of understanding and belief kind of just mixed together in a pot. And it's like, this is what I believe in. You know?
No, and that's good. I think it's healthier than just subscribing to some formula that's been made up, possibly. But I would say church almost ruined God for me, you know, but it didn't. But it almost did.
Right.
And I would say that because of the human flaw, the human greed behind a lot of church, you know, pastors and bishops and all these other stuff. You know, the experiences I had were very just like these people present one way and then behind the scenes they're another. You ever watch The Righteous Gemstones?
No.
It's pretty vulgar, but it's also absolutely hilarious and kind of accurate in a way too. Yeah. Where like the guy's like, you know, all right, everybody, da da da, and he gets off and like, let's go fucking eat, man. Like, let's get the money, da 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 da, and they're just not really genuine, or they'll put up certain rules and things they don't follow. And I just think it's gotten a little too traditional, a little too far away from like just communing with Source, you know. But for me, I don't know if I even care how real or how human 3D Jesus was, or you know like. Or like if Abraham was like a real guy, or if he's like a metaphor, if it was in a different universe, or if it's just like all these different religions are all just like interfaces or stories, depending on where you live, to help you commune with like a source. You know, I don't really care, because I just feel like I can just pull from almost anything, and interpret it. You know, so with Christianity, like I'll give you an example. Like I don't really believe, and again, you know, people are going to definitely not agree with this, but I don't really necessarily believe Jesus is going to like physically come back. I think Christ consciousness could be the second coming of Christ. It's a theory, you know. Sure. I think something like the awakening of yourself, you know, I think Jesus became his highest self in the Bible, you know. The Bible says be renewed by the transformation of your mind. You know, that sounds like mindfulness. That sounds like meditation. There's a lot of Christian people that you say the word meditation and they think you're some type of devil worshiper now. And it literally means to sit in stillness and receive, you know. Mm-hmm. Prayer is communing and meditating is receiving, you know, or focusing on something. But I just think there's a lot of things in the Bible that are true or they mean one thing, but the interpretations are possibly really off. And one small misinterpretation can change the context. So, I forget the verse, but it says, like Jesus said, I'll be with you till the end of an eon. And then people thought eon meant world, but apparently eon meant age. So now, because of one small translation, people are like, oh, wait, the world's going to end?
Right.
You know? But what if it's just an age, you know? And age is like 2,500 to 4,000 years estimated, something like that. You know? So it's like, what if there's a different prophet every 4,000 years? That's there. I don't, you know what I mean? So
Right.
It's all random theories. I'm not like, there's probably some holes in them, but like.
But but there's holes in them. But at the same time, what doesn't have a hole in it, right?
That's true.
If you really turn it over and look at it from an alternate perspective, any of it has a hole, right?
Yeah. There was another one that was like, a man shall not lay with another man, or a man shall not lay with a man. And apparently that one was like, actually, man shall not lay with a boy. Right. So it's like, oh, maybe it's not speaking out against homosexuality. Maybe it's speaking out against pedophilia. Right. You know what I mean? Right. And there's a lot of pedophilia in a lot of religion. Right. So it's like, oh, that's convenient change. You know? Right. I don't have a source to back that up, but I saw it somewhere and I thought it was interesting. I just want to clarify.
I just saw it somewhere, but no, but
I know it doesn't sound very.
No, but listen, at the end of the day, it's worth exploring. Yeah. Right? Like I have a Bible, I'm reading the Bible, you know, and I've connected with a buddy of mine, and you know, it was just a serendipitous thing. We have a conversation and we start talking. He's like, I listen to the Bible on the Bible app, and we started talking about it. And I was listening to it the other morning, and they were talking about the story of Abraham and how he was told to go and sacrifice his son, and you know, God will provide, right? And that's the same thing as like Cain and Abel, right? The two brothers who are bringing their best, or perceivingly their best, to the table in front of God, and God chooses one over the other. And now you could take that as a literal interpretation, and that's where I'm currently at that stage where I'm like, do I believe in this stuff, or do I believe in this stuff? You know, what is it? And you know, I have a tendency to lean towards the metaphorical, where it says like, you know, be willing to put your best in front of God, right? Yeah. And God will, because then at the story of Abraham, for those who don't know, at the last minute, the Holy Spirit comes down and says, you don't have to sacrifice your son. basically it was a test to see how devout you are to God. And in the bushes there was a ram, and they sacrificed the ram.
Yeah.
So it's like God will provide, but you have to have faith, and you have to be willing to put the best forward in front of God, the best version of you. Grind through it. Put yourself forward. Put yourself out there to do your best, and then the result will present itself as a surprise party.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's like I think basically God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it, wants to know your willingness. He wants to know how willing you are in your heart. And he wants to know you really are like ready for whatever it is. And I do struggle with, I struggle with like a God of love being like, kill your son for me.
Right.
I struggle with that, man. I do.
Right.
So I know he didn't make him do it at the end, but it just still seems a little, there's a whole deep other thing with biblical God and what it could possibly be. I don't know if you ever go down the Anunnaki rabbit hole.
I've not as deep as I could.
Yeah, but like Billy Carson, if you haven't looked into Billy Carson, he speaks on it a lot, and he kind of says that like most major religions are all like actually the newest religions, and one of the oldest ones is, if you look, is Anunnaki. Anunnaki is even supposed to be pre-Sumerian, and like there's like two brothers, and Lil and Inky, and one of them is like they came here to basically like make humans, I'm trying to super paraphrase, to make humans that were like more Neanderthalish. I gave them a little bit more of like they modified us apparently, and they made us a slave race, all of humans, to mine gold for them. This is just something like, this is a very paraphrased version of it, but I guess one of the brothers had more of an affinity for humans, and the other one wanted to just control them. So the brother who had an affinity with them, like, might have breeded or whatever, and it made like demigods or what, I forget what the Bible called them, Nephilim. It's like in the Bible, like there's giants and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff that's very like weirdly parallel, and like if you look at that story, like it was just one of the brothers was in the Garden of Eden, and he was, and you're like, oh wow, these stories like kind of line up with Christianity in a way, and it's like which one's actually right and which one's older,
right?
Yeah, I'm skipping a lot of stuff, man. But
then even like you go into the Graham Hancock stuff, where it's the depths of civilization and how far back, and you're watching these documentaries about how there's all these cities underneath, Mayan civilizations and all these other deep cities, and they're all configured and structured the same way, and they're all facing the same way. And you're like, this can't be a fucking coincidence.
Exactly. They keep finding older and older shit.
Like older and older shit. They keep on finding it.
Yeah. It's crazy. There's like hills in China, mountains, and they're actually pyramids, and they like hide them and stuff. Like I've seen this. Billy Carson talks about it a lot. I definitely enjoy watching him try to poke holes in everything we believe in. I love it.
Well, again, it goes into the it's humbling in a sense.
Yeah.
It humbles you because everything you think you know, you don't, right? And I think that being humbled is one of the most powerful things you could, and they could be physically humbling with like working out or the cold plunge or sauna or jujitsu. To be humbled is so important. It keeps that ego in check. It keeps the grandiose version of you that says, I'm a great meditator. It keeps that at bay to be humbled. And when you can humble yourself to God or whatever it is, to a story, and say, wow, I really don't know, but that's okay.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
It's again that relationship with the unknown and being okay with that unknown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely can proudly say I don't know shit really. I've just looked into a lot of shit, but I don't really know. At the end of the day, it's just I can trust the intuitive feeling I have in there, and I for some reason. The history of things feels more like a semantic than like what I'm actually experiencing. Like what I'm actually experiencing seems more important than if Jesus was a story or a guy, or both. And maybe that matters more for other people, but for me, I just know what I feel. I don't even know. It might seem ignorant, but again, it's like following the unknown. Like what is that? Like some people just need to know who they're talking to. I almost don't. Like source is like the best name I've ever heard for God, because it just feels a little more encompassing. People argue, is it Buddha, is it Jesus, is it God, is it Allah, is it whoever? Personally, like source is just kind of like, covers all of it, you know?
Yeah, I'm trying to get better with God. And I think also being raised Catholic and growing up and going to Catholic school
Right.
and it just being inundated in that and being forced to go to church and sign the document and go to here.
Yeah.
It really taints your relationship with that potential thing.
It does. It's honestly like very fear rooted too, because you're like, well, if I am wrong, if I definitely am wrong, then hell, it's hell for me then, because I'm not following this exact, you know, formula.
Right.
And then it's like I grew up like just kind of more the non-denominational Christian.
Right.
You know, my parents were Catholic. They felt like that was like a little more of a traditional perspective. So I grew up less strict and religiously, but still it was so like, oh, no, there's no other way to God except for Jesus. Like I promise you, no other way. And I don't even want to talk to you about it. And please don't ask me any questions about it either. Not my parents, but like the religion itself, the way it's taught. You know, my dad, on the other hand, he actually ended up leaving the church shortly after I left because of some of the inner workings and stuff. And we all, me and him are very alike in that way, where we ask a lot of questions that other people don't like to hear, you know?
Yeah, but you know, at the same time, I think that you can't allow the humanistic tendency for greed or manipulation or ego to taint your relationship with the thing.
It's true, because you see it now even with like 222 and the spirituality and all this stuff. It becomes a trend. Crystals, it becomes popular. All those things have a place, have meaning, but it's also cute and trendy. You know, just like at one point being Christian, it could be, or being whatever, you know?
Sure.
Like at one point it was like, oh, you're not Christian, right? not in our lifetime, really, but, you know, at one point, right? So, yeah, I think it's interesting how anything could have the ego creep in.
Yeah.
Basically.
And it's important to work on that relationship with the ego.
Yeah, very much. Because, like you said, it's rebound time. It's not going away. If you didn't have an ego, you wouldn't have any boundaries either, I think. And that might be bad for being a human, you know? That's my theory.
Elaborate on that. What do you mean?
Like, I think you still need you still need masculine energy to balance the feminine energy. And
Sure.
Feminine energy is creative, and masculine energy is focused and completing, you know? So you're birthing, and then you're raising. You're birthing the child and you're raising the child, like, you know, and teaching, guiding, you know. And obviously there's this, but I think true harmony is like masculine and feminine energy. So I think I can be loving and I can learn to love everyone, but I still have to have like a little, I think my ego that doesn't let like everyone just like sleep in my house. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like we're still having a human experience, or, you know, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's your human brain is your ego. So you still have to cooperate with it. You can't just get rid of it. If you get rid of it, you're just like a monk. Because like a monk can achieve like massive like peak peace, but they're not necessarily ever leaving like a temple or a mountain.
Right.
But to like be in the real world and like try to maintain that peace and have that like light bubble outside of you, that's like a whole nother thing. It's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, they're in a vacuum.
You know Ram Dass?
Yeah, of course.
Like, he talks about that. He's like, I would go and I would meditate, and I would be like, you know, light pouring out of my head, and I would go around my family or a city and be like, I don't really feel like this is for me.
Yeah,
I don't like cities. I don't like my family.
Yeah.
And then you realize that the city is just citying, or the family is just being them, and it's how you react to them.
He has the great quote: if you think you're enlightened, go spend a weekend with your family. Or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
Go
yeah.
spend the holidays with your family.
Yeah.
He also has a great quote about death. He says it's just the removal of a tight shoe.
Right, taking off a tight shoe. I love that. That's what helped me get rid of any fear of death, really. And like you said, I have a realistic one, you know, the ego one, where it's like, you know, if the car is heading towards a brick wall, you're gonna still be like,
Right.
you know, but still, like, deep down, you're not letting it consume you. So, yeah, Yeah, I know it sounds weird, but I think we need our egos at the end of the day a little bit.
Oh yeah, no, we definitely do.
You know,
we definitely do. It certainly is a check and balance,
right?
And it gives you the opportunity to ebb and flow between those spaces. And listen, everything's perfect within a vacuum. You could be at the top of a mountain meditating, and it's so easy to find enlightenment in that regard. But then, how do you actually apply that stuff in the real world when you're stuck in traffic or you're late to a flight or your kids are fucking screaming? The other morning, it was just a fucking disaster of a morning. And then what do you take from that experience and, how do you use it in the future to change it, grow it, be better? Whether it be an apology. I apologize to my kids all the time. If I fuck up, I fuck up.
That's great, man. I mean, it really is like a constant like journey and a constant like implementation.
It's exhausting though.
It's so exhausting. God. I'm tired.
It's exhausting at its own right. But again, if you're blessed enough to have that perspective on it, it makes it a little bit more tolerable.
It definitely does.
So I want to talk about some of the music.
All right, let's do it.
So you're on tour right now.
Yeah.
And you're doing your own stuff now.
So right now, I'm not singing. I'm playing guitar. I'm playing the parts that I wrote, and playing over tracks with the band, music we all made together. But the artist, his name is Isaiah Falls. He's amazing. Shout out Isaiah Falls. And then shout out to Luxury Lane. That's our production team, and that's also the band that's playing with him. So it's music we all created. So me as Bliz, I have more of a retro style music, and that's kind of on a slower pace right now. I'm just developing myself, so to speak, but simultaneously I'm helping to support my boy because his music is really starting to take off on a big level, a big level. So I'm just like, this makes sense to have most of my focus right now. So that comes first, and then like my career is it's not even on a back burner, it's just on the other burner.
Yeah. It's interesting how those things happen because, again, it's like you could white knuckle your way and be like, I got to do my thing.
Yeah, I'm not just a guitar player.
Right.
I'm not just a producer.
Right. I have to white knuckle my success. Yeah, but I think that taps into a little bit of that flow experience where you're like, I'm just going to let this be whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. A small example of that is like there's another artist out there that does retro music really dope. His name is Diamond Cafe, and we just met. He's super fire. I found him on the internet, and I was like, I want to work with this guy one day. And he ended up linking up with Isaiah, and Isaiah was like, yo, you should open for me at my show in Toronto. So he came through and did that, and me and him met. And I mean, I would say me and him probably spoke more than even him and Isaiah. It was just like a beautiful connection. We just geeked out over all the retro vibes, and we're gonna work on some music. So me following that golden thread led me to something that benefits me in my artist career directly. So I could have been like, I don't want to go on tour.
But not in a selfish way,
no,
right? Like
no.
not in this, like, how can I get into this thing?
Not at all.
In a really authentic, genuine way.
Just happened. It happened in real time. I was like, oh my God.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Here's the thing I asked for.
Like, what? DMing him and being like, we should work, bro? Is that better? Or, just literally meeting in real life, So, yeah. I shout out Zay, shout out Diamond Cafe. I appreciate both you guys.
Yeah, and you could have reached out to him, and that might have been, it might have cultivated a relationship that, has the same end result, right? Mm-hmm. But allowing it to unfold in this really organic, serendipitous way, as Joe Dispenza always talks about, allows it to just take on this whole different framework of what's transpiring on a bigger level.
It's true, and it's like you said, like you called it a deathbed moment, where I'm playing, him my song, and he's like, oh, this is so good. And I'm like, I kind of saw this already, but I just didn't know, you know what I mean, in what way. And it's just, if you follow that, it's going to just happen for you. That's why I said earlier, I believe if you just follow the one thing, like you're going to get literally everything you want, I want to travel, I'm getting to go to Paris and London. I'm getting paid to go, you know what I mean? Like, that's crazy, off of music we made. So you just the side missions and the distractions and the over controlling or the over, like you said, white knuckling through. It's not better than just like riding that wave.
It's way more fun to ride the wave.
Yeah.
It's so 4 mantras that have been part of this creation, and the first is from Step Brothers, and it's "Don't lose your dinosaur." Right? And that's so true because like the 9-year-old you that found that guitar under the bed is now the guy who's on tour, right?
Yeah.
You never lost that dinosaur. And I think that as adults, it's so easy to lose that as a parent, as an employee, as a spouse.
He fell on the couch a few times, you know.
Right. I
I left it in a car somewhere sometimes,
Right.
but I ended up getting it back eventually.
But and that's the thing going back to like my daughter, like at that age, it's like it seeps out of you, that like that wonder of the world starts to seep out of you. And then the second one is magic is real. And unless you believe in that magic, like unless you and that again, childlike wonder, you know, the magic is fucking real. It's
real.
So real. It actually like sets you back.
Yeah.
It's like, this can't be fucking like, what the
When you really start to get into it, it's like, it's crazy. Like, I can't believe I can't believe I just talked about him and he just called me. I can't believe
Right.
I can't believe this. I can't believe this. I'm seeing, my like angel number is my birthday, 213, 213. And on the way, like the first day of tour, my flight number was 213. The flight was leaving at 2:13. My seat was 2:13. Like it was a few different. I can't remember, but it was like 5 things. To the point where I'm showing my boy, and he's like, "Oh my god, this is weird, bro.
Right.
It's weird."
like, no, it's not.
And all it is for me is, if we live in a 3D world, in a matrix, in a physical reality, if there's something behind this reality that can interface with us, it's through subtle messages, not direct messages. So when I see that number particularly, I believe I'm on the right path. It's really that simple. It's
confirmation.
It's not on some super spooky vibes, but it feels so like, it just feels so I don't know, spiritual. It just does. It feels spiritual still. It feels beyond physical, I should say, at least.
Yeah. And it's easy to read into that, and it's easy for people to shit on them. Like, dude, you're looking into it,
That's fine, but it works for me,
Exactly. And then obviously the third is follow the golden thread, and then last is, from Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. And that kind of goes to the same idea of, Abraham. Like, if you put in the work, the result will breed itself. It will happen. But it's not on your time frame, right? And again, that goes to the wanting to know. I need to DM him and work with him because I like it. It's cool, but it's more of allow it to play itself out and become the reality that you interface with.
Exactly.
Without having to white knuckle it.
Exactly. It's like, oh, it's that easy? Like, it's not easy, but it is. I've done, dude. Almost my whole career, I've done a lot of like side missions and a lot of trying to. There's a lot of ways you could succeed in the music business, and some people really do have a lot of success just like working with a ton of artists, and I have, but I still haven't seen that fulfillment and that like peak success I want to see for myself by doing that, by sending, I'm not no problem with any of these artists or people I've worked with, but I just don't have the same fulfillment I have with a Pitbull song as I do with an Isaiah Falls song, because that's my bro. I met him, he didn't even have a Spotify, and we really worked. Pitbull's already a super established artist. We've never met. He knows who I am, but we've never met, and sometimes he'll pick a song, whatever, it'll come out, and maybe it'll do well, but there's not a connection to that, and that's okay. Like, it's totally okay, but that's just not, I'm not in it for the money. I'm not in it for the notoriety alone. I want that stuff too, but I really want that fulfillment of like, this is ours. But what's cool is you get way more of what you want out of that too. Like what I mean by that is you're doing something that's easier. It's easier to be around your friends. It's easier to be on the road with your friends. It's easier to have these experiences and get through dark or negative times as well with your friends. But you're also going to have more money, more success, more notoriety, help more people, all because you're following the thing that feels better for you. It's not about easy feeling better. It's just about like alignment feeling better,
I do. I know exactly what you mean by that. And it is easier, but at the same time, it's radically harder.
Yeah.
It's radically harder because there's just all the side missions, as you put it. There are all the distractions. There's all the things that lead you to not go towards that feeling. And if you do lose your dinosaur at some point, to regain your dinosaur is that much harder.
It really is.
It's that much harder.
I noticed that, like, I never really wanted to work a job, and I never really even have. I was good at guitar young, so I gave like guitar lessons. That was like a job. I was like a bouncer at a country bar for a summer, random stuff. But I mainly just did gigs and things, and eventually got into music production and stuff. But I realized that I was having a 9-to-5 within the music industry still, by being like someone's, whatever they want for whatever they want me to do. I'm just like a human computer or something.
Sure.
So I realized I had to actually break out of that too and really start doing my own stuff.
So how did you break out of, because again, you would think that you achieve a level of success and you get to a point where you go, I did it. Like, here I am. I'm making money doing the thing I love to do. But then all of a sudden it's this next level to that where it's like, okay, but now how do you live in an aligned version of that? So how did you break out of that? When did you kind of realize that you were still a slave to the grind kind of?
Oh, man. I mean, probably I just had a lot of like big songs, like, whether they're with songs with big artists or the song itself was a big song and it would generate money from a royalty. I haven't had like a super, super crazy hit, but I've had some songs that have, a couple 100 million streams and things like that that I've produced or helped to produce or whatever. And it just doesn't bring as much as you think. So for me, it's tough because no matter what, you're kind of working like pro bono-ish. So what I mean by that is like if I'm getting hired by an artist or if I'm working with an artist, we're cooking up like a few songs and then they're like, I like that one, I want to buy that one. And then like that process is kind of slow. They end up getting it mixed or whatever, recording it, whatever it is, whatever order it is in. And then they're like, okay, I want this, what's your information? And then your lawyer talks to their lawyer and then that lawyer is like, we'll give you this much, we'll give you whatever. And then my lawyer is like, well, that's not really that good. Can I have a little more? Normal negotiation stuff.
Sure.
And then maybe a month to honestly a year later sometimes you get that money. So initially it's really hard to even do that because of the pipeline. But I've been able to make a pipeline, send out so much music over the years. I had a couple Pitbull songs come out like 6 years later. Honestly, crazy, and then they pay you, So I've done so much work. I think I've done millions of dollars I'm not a millionaire, but I think I've done millions of dollars worth of work that hasn't been paid for maybe just yet. You know what I'm saying? And some of it might never, but that eventually does lead to royalties. It does lead to advances, which is what I was talking about. And it leads to publishing deals and things like that, and you're getting this money.
Do they have to use the song?
No, they don't have to. Like if I work with them, you mean?
So if they work with you and they say we want to buy this song, we want to buy the song from you, do they have to use it?
No.
So they can buy it from you, never use it.
Oh, that's
never
happened to
pay
me
you.
multiple times. No, they pay me and then
They
still
pay
don't
you,
use it.
but they don't use it.
Yeah. But then you don't get royalties on it.
Right.
Because they didn't put it out. But there's nothing in the contract that says like, this has to come out. That's an interesting question. I've never been asked that before.
There is something a little bit disappointing when you hear that artists don't write their own music.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on this really big wave of Luke Combs right now.
Yeah,
Big fucking. We went and saw him live, and I was like, holy shit, this man is unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And he just came out with an album called Father and Son, and it's just it's just so it's a soundtrack for this time in my life.
Yeah,
it's amazing, and there was a song he has called Wild Things. It's about a brother, and obviously the brother dies and stuff. And I was like, oh man, dude, like is that like I didn't know if it was a true story or not. Whatever. My wife looks up, she's like, oh no, some guy wrote it, and he ended up playing it and all stuff. I was like, that's a little disappointing. Like I didn't want his brother to die, but I still wish he wrote the song. I was like, that's a little disappointing.
I hear you, especially when it's like a very personal perspective. But sometimes it's just interesting how like collaboration works. Like that guy who wrote it might not have a voice, and the guy who has the voice might not have the story, and they need each other.
And that's a beautiful a collaboration that took place in the song's fucking amazing. It's an amazing song. And he obviously has the voice to tell the story, right? Mm-hmm. But there's just a little bit of like me, like, nah, he didn't write that. But I think that's that's probably more times than not that artists are not writing.
I think the biggest artists all have some type of co-writer or at least co-producer, or it just depends. Not everybody, but like I would take a Prince, right? Like Prince did everything by himself. So it's possible, you know. He did everything by himself damn near. He even played all the instruments, mixed it, wrote it, like superhuman. But, you know, he put out a lot more. I believe he put out a lot more music than Michael Jackson. And Michael Jackson included, I think Michael Jackson has had more hits. Don't kill me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's had way more hits than Prince.
I would think so.
And Michael Jackson is the guy who said, I'm bringing in like Quincy Jones, and Quincy Jones is bringing in Anthony Marinelli, he's bringing in Toto, he's bringing in, you know, whoever, like all these different people, all these, Rod Temperton was a writer. So like Michael would write songs. He would write songs. We just wouldn't write all the songs. So like, you know, maybe the artist writes a song and then you bring in a writer that helps to like match that thing that's been created now. Now you have this thing, this, you know, like you have this creation. How can we make 10 more of these now? Help me out. You know? So it's like still, like I said, when I'm going to help an artist, I'm trying to think through their eyes. I'm not trying to make them me. I think that's like kind of not a great producer when they're like, this is what I think you should do only. You know, it's like, oh, let me just help you do what you do 10 different ways. You know?
Was there a time where, as much as maybe there was a good opportunity, that you turned down something because it wasn't, you know, it wasn't aligned with who you were or how you wanted to show up?
Yeah, definitely. Multiple experiences. I got asked to do the Rod Wave tour for a second time, and I turned that one down. And there's some behind the scenes, you know, like just things, maybe just things about tour that I just didn't want to do, but I also just felt like it didn't align with where I was like heading. It was the juxtaposition that we were talking about, or the fork in the road, where I'm like, someone out there, this is someone out there's dream, and I'm not feeling fulfilled from this, even though it's an amazing opportunity and a lot of money. You know, I'm like, no, and so I actually decided to say no, and two things happened. I became way more of down the path that we're talking about now, where I'm doing all the things that fulfill me, but I also was able to open up a job for someone that was really excited to do it. You know what I'm saying? So I was able to, like, my absence created a need and an opportunity to be, and I never met the person that replaced me, but I believe it had a positive impact on their life, you know? So that was a cool thing too. I'm like, me staying here is not only holding me back, it's holding whoever else back too.
That's a really beautiful perspective.
Thank you. It took a long time to get there.
It's no, but it really is, because it's so easy to just shoot it down, keep it moving, okay. But to realize that there's someone getting a phone call right now, right? And it's like, and they're like, who the fuck is this? And they pick it up.
Yo,
it's like
a week from now.
Right.
Can you give 2 months of your life away?
Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, what the fuck? Like, they're having that deathbed moment because you, not to say you're selfless enough, like, let's not make it like you're Christ on the cross, but like, you know what I mean? But you have the realization that this is not for me.
Yeah.
And it can be for someone else. Yeah. And they're getting that phone call and they're having that holy fuck moment. But to have that perspective is it's beautiful.
Thank you. My dad used to tell me, train yourself out of a job. And, you know, I think there's some truth to that statement in this too, where you're like, you know, you don't want to just like cling to your position. You want to elevate your position. And to elevate your position means you're going to lose your position as well. You know? Your current position, I should say.
I think that's important. And then also realizing, like, do you want to be in that place, right? Like, do you want to be the person that is ahead of you in this sense, right? Like, do you want to fill those shoes? And if the answer is no, then it's like, okay, I'm on the wrong train.
I had a friend of mine. His name's Kevin Onino, and he was like, I was like asking him. He calls himself an imagination coach. Really cool. And he actually has a course and everything. He helps creatives that are at impasses and stuff. So shout out to him. If you want to check, anybody wants to check that out. But I talked to him, and he was like, he helped me arrive at the realization that whatever I decided to do was going to benefit me at the end of the day. So if I went on tour, it would be a great experience that I needed. If I stayed home, it would be a great experience that I needed. So I don't know what would have happened if I went, but I definitely made the right decision for me, I believe. And you know, I'm here now. If I didn't, I might not be here right now. You know, if I did go on the tour, I should say, I might not be in this room. You know, so it's amazing to think about. But at the end of the day, like, decisions are hard, but whatever decisions you make can and will lead to the thing you want if you really like follow that thread, man.
Yeah. I love seeing people in their most authentic state. I really do. I love seeing people in a place of true authenticity. And when I see you and we engage in conversation, whether it be at a wedding or on a podcast or text or DM, whatever it is, I see you as someone who is showing up in the world as fucking authentic as you could be.
Thank you.
Like, and that's so hard, right? Because it's so hard to you know, because there is this always sense of growing and developing and evolving and you know, being complacent versus being aspirational and being, you know, grateful, but versus, you know, still wanting more. And it is this duality that, you know, I think all people experience. But when we engage in conversation, and it's just so beautiful that we had that one fucking moment at this wedding.
It was quick, too.
It was quick. It was like the end of the night. Yeah. It was like, what have you been up to? Blah. And we went back and forth. I was like, oh, following the golden thread. And you were just like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm fucking doing. and it's led us to here. It's just, I love seeing authenticity in people. And it comes off you. Like in the way you speak and the way you carry yourself. And the way you show up in the world, in your music, it's just, I love seeing that. And honestly, I'm just so happy that we're able to engage in this tango, right? That's life amongst all the chaos that's going around us and how busy you are and how busy I am with life, that we're able to carve out this opportunity to share just our journeys.
Man, me too. It's such a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful thing. And I'm happy we finally were able to make this happen too, because you know, it's been a long time coming since that wedding, honestly.
Yeah, and we're like talking, and you're like, dude, this is a long time coming. I'm just coming up and we're gonna record the podcast.
Yeah. Let's just do it.
Let's just do it. Beard. Do you do anything to it? Do you touch it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even when I'm eating, I'm like,
yeah.
Have you gotten to that point yet or no?
Yeah. Ice cream is. I get to the point where I'm just like, just leave me alone.
There's foods I avoid. I avoid certain foods. I like don't like to eat wings in public.
Sure.
You know, I had a burger with an egg on it one time, and I bit it.
Yolk.
And I was just like, I can't let this happen again. I can't. I'll just not eat that in public ever again.
Ice cream's a big one for me. If I'm having like ice cream, it's like, it's over.
It's just gross.
It's fucking over.
But I love it, man. I mean, you know, as a mostly bald, I got the little reverse fade going on back here. But as a mostly bald guy, it's definitely a nice accentuation. But yeah, I've had a beard for probably like 10 years now, I would say. And I let it grow. Sometimes I'm like a wild man. Other times I'm like trim it up. It's kind of spiritual. Like if I'm in like a real grind phase, I just won't get a haircut for a long time. Yeah. And then like I'm like stepping back out into the world, stepping back out on stage, whatever it is. I'm like line me up, trim it up, you know. But I just made a little oil blend with my boy Phil Mango. He's in Luxury Lane, and he put me on. So I just got like jojoba oil, lemongrass oil, I think tea tree, a couple other things, and just like made a blend of oil instead of buying a beard oil that's like formulated for men, which most products that made for men just seem to be terrible. I don't know why. Yeah, like I get like acne from if you go to Walgreens and buy like beard oil for men, it's just like I've got acne or whatever, or get greasy and heavy. So
yeah.
You know, yeah, I'll use that, or there's another oil by this hair company called Monate, and they have an oil called Rejuvenique oil. That's really the only product I use from them, but I'll use that too sometimes. It's just really expensive. Yeah. But it's like a really light formulated oil, like the molecules or something, so it actually penetrates the hair instead of like stays on it. Right? And it smells like oranges. So
how many Christmases do you get beard kits?
Yeah, every time. Yeah, exactly.
If we're having a secret Santa at work, I'm getting a fucking beard.
How many wooden combs do you have?
Accurate. It's very accurate. A lot. I have a lot of wooden combs. It's funny. I don't touch mine. I let my barber touch it. Maybe every once in a while.
I definitely don't ever touch my beard though. You know, myself.
Yeah, I don't fuck with it.
I'm a believer in general of like I want the best people to do whatever it is. So you know,
Stephen
if you
Pressfield, pros hire pros.
yeah, exactly. If you work on cars every day, you're always going to be better than me who works on cars no days.
Right, 0 days.
Yeah. So I feel about everything.
Pros hire pros. But there is something rewarding.
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't paint. I used to be a painter. I was like, I'm not fucking paint this place. But I did do the shiplap. Like I did do that. Like thank you. I did put up, and like as much as I'm like, if you ask me, like I'm not a handy guy, I did that, and there is a sense of like, oh, I did that shit.
Yeah, and then you have that knowledge and you get better at it. I think it's like whatever pulls your interest, because I'm not only one thing. I'm just. There's just like whatever the thing is, like if I don't have the pull to learn it, then I'm trying to hire somebody or whatever the case may be.
What else do you like pull to learn?
I'm really interested in understanding branding and marketing right now, I would say, because I feel like I know a lot about how to make music, but I don't necessarily fully know as confidently how to package that thing, how to really get it to people, how to get things out there, and you know, I'm just learning like branding and marketing is more important than the content initially, and then the contents of whatever you're packaging up matters after the branding, because if you can successfully sell a shitty product, people will catch on, but it's still just popular. But if you can successfully popularize a great product, you have a timeless thing going on, you know? So it's hard. It's really difficult to stand out and make noise among noise, you know?
Yeah. No, it certainly is in any space, whether it be music, podcasting, you know, even coaching, right? There's so many coaches out there.
Yeah.
Like, how do you stand out as an individual? And I think that a big part of that is showing up, like, whatever it is. But I think also allowing things to move in seasons. Like, you know, this is the 4th recorded episode I haven't released, you know, because I'm in this phase of rebranding, and I want to white knuckle this thing, and what's it look like? But I'm also like, okay. Like, it's not going anywhere. There are other things that are taking precedence. It's not on the back burner, as you said. It's just on the other burner.
Yeah,
right now.
yeah.
It's just not cooked yet.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm allowing it to just do its thing, not overcommit to it, because there is this, especially as an artist, you know, there is this feeling of like, I need to be constantly putting out and doing and doing and doing. And then when you get caught up in that, it's like, what am I doing this for? I'm doing it for the sake of doing it, not for the authenticity of the thing anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've dealt with a lot of guilt over like feeling like I'm not doing enough.
Oh,
and I'm actually doing too much. You know.
If you asked me, I would say I don't do enough.
Yeah, of course.
And I do a fucking lot.
Same. I'm like, I did all this and all, but I didn't post today. So I'm scum. I'm human scum.
I suck. Yeah, social media, and then that's the whole other part of it. It's like social media is entirely another ball of wax.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
It's exhausting.
I'm figuring that out too. I mean, that's hand in hand with the marketing stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But I was like super viral and popular at one point, and I kind of with the algorithm change, with me not showing up as much, like I'm at full restart mode right now. I don't fully have what I need to crack through yet. I have to really sit down and like figure all that out, you know.
What in saying that you've gone viral and you're on the other side of that, what is it like? What is the thing that you're seeking?
That's a good question, you know, because now I know I'm seeking to reach the people that I need to reach, you know, through the music I'm making, and that might not even need to be as deep as it sounds. It might just be like I like 80s shit, and I want to find other people that like 80s shit. But then on the deep level, it's like I want to make something about what I've been through, and I want it to reach someone that's currently going through it, so that they can get through that moment. You know, that's the deeper thing. But in the past, I think I just wanted likes, views, money, popularity, recognition. What's the word?
Validation.
Validation, exactly. You know, I would just do if blah 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 had a guitar solo, and some of them would get millions and millions of views. If September by Earth, Wind & Fire had a guitar solo, or if Love Yourself by Justin Bieber, like any era, whatever, any song that doesn't have one, I would just add one, because I knew how to do that. I knew how to get the instrumental spliced together and then cut a little empty space out and then add the guitar in. But I was one of like 3 people doing that. I did it on, I used to take the instrumental and play guitar melodies on Vine. And then on TikTok, I would do the same thing. And there was like 3 people doing it. Now there's just like anybody can do that now. There's tons of great guitar players. You know, so even trying to show up and do that again wouldn't cut through the same way. You have to just evolve. But that's what I was seeking, man. I would say it's more so just like, you know, I got like, it was cool. I got like free guitars from it and all that stuff from Fender and a lot of opportunities, but it still wasn't
enough.
I didn't tie it back to me as much. And now I'm learning like good branding is like kind of getting people off platform or getting people to fall more in love with who you are, you know, genuinely as a person, as a package deal. And then like whatever you do, like you brought up the beard, like if you like me as a person and you like my beard, you probably would buy my beard oil. I don't have beard oil, but I will. But right. You know what I'm saying? Like it's, sure. You can really do and tie yourself to anything when you have a brand. But if someone only knows you because you have that one song by that guy I don't remember, you know, so that's what I'm trying to learn now.
But it's amazing how you'll get to the point where the validation is somewhat complete to some regard, but then at the same time, it's vain.
Yeah.
It's empty.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I would see literally thousands of people be like, this guy's incredible. And then someone else is like, he's not even really playing. And I'd be like,
motherfucker, I am too.
And you start to get bothered by the one negative comment in a sea of, you know, sea of positivity. So that's kind of like the Buddhist thing, right? Where you shouldn't let the positive or negative comments really affect you. Because if you let the positive ones boost your ego, the negative ones will tear it down. So if you're a little bit more like indifferent with it, you're not getting too fueled or energized by it, I think it's like a safer place to be.
Yeah, but that dopamine hits and you're fucking buzzing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Buzzing.
Yeah. Have you had any viral moments with clips or anything like that?
No viral moments. And I think a part of me is grateful that I haven't. You
should be, man. I don't like to tell people they should be, but I think you should be grateful.
I'm just trying to just show up and do the things I love to do as much as I can and as often as I can.
Yeah.
And I want to be compensated by it in a 3D reality.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely. And for me, the reason why I say you should be grateful is because I've had millions of views. I have posts that have 250,000 likes on them and shit like that. And now I post something and it gets 100 views or 1,000 views and 100 likes, and I feel like a failure. You know, or even like getting 10,000 views, I'm like, oh, failure. You know, and so like when you get spoiled and exposed to that like high tier thing and you don't have it, you're like, so it's kind of good in a way. You know what I mean? That you can just kind of like you can see the slow progress a little bit better that way. Yeah. When you have a moment and then you dip back down, it's like so hard to measure progress sometimes when that happens. For me,
your progress gets skewed.
It gets very skewed, man, because it's like false reality, a false measurement of your popularity too, because you're kind of hot in the moment.
Right.
It's crazy, man. But yeah.
Just slow burn.
Yeah, I think it's better.
I just want to do what I enjoy doing more. That's it.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's all I want to do.
Covers a lot. It covers everything.
That's all I want to do. I just want to do more of it. Dude, I'm so stoked that we had this conversation.
Me too, man.
And I really appreciate you coming up. I know it was a journey, but as you got you walk, I followed the golden thread all the way here.
Yeah.
And from that wedding to this moment, it does feel like we both have, and it's really cool to like share the energy and the space with you.
Dude, likewise.
And I really appreciate. Where can people get your music? Where can people hear more of what you're doing? Where can people see you? Gotcha. I don't know when this is coming out, so all that might be antiquated, but whatever.
Okay, you reminded me. So I actually just dropped a song with my boy Icee Red. It's called Midnight Snack. And I'm singing on it. He produced it. I produced it with him. We have some dope people involved on that, Luxury Lane. But it's really like his song is going to go on his project, but I'm the vocalist on it. He's a DJ and producer. So that just dropped on the 13th. So go check that out. Midnight Snack on Spotify. My Instagram is Bliz at GBLIZ. I got a couple things to mention. So my best friend from childhood has never left my side from friendship and brotherhood. Me and him make all of my music together. We just love the 80s and the retro vibes. His name is Blige and Chris. His Instagram is Blackanese Beats. So I wanted to shout him out. We make all of my stuff, and then we also have a duo, kind of like Silk Sonic kind of thing. and that's called Exit 8, which is the exit we used to hang out in Connecticut all the time. So me and him are dropping music through that duo, and then also he's producing for all the music that I drop as G Bliz. So you can go check out Exit 8, Exit 8 Music. You can go check out that we have an instrumental out right now. It's kind of like 80s crime kind of vibes, like Scarface kind of stuff.
I got you.
So, you know, and then
slide across the hood of the car type of shit.
Exactly, man. So, you know, it's I'm dabbling with all that kind of stuff. Check out Luxury Lane Library. That's my production team that I'm working with and I'm on the road with right now. And Isaiah Falls on Spotify. He has a song called Florida Baby that's going super viral right now. Love Me or Love Me Not, a couple other dope songs. So yeah, man, a lot of stuff. Shout out for my girl Talii, Talii Music. My girlfriend makes music as well, and that's how we all actually met. I had a writing camp for her, and that's how I met Isaiah and all these other people. And so yeah, it's just becoming a family thing. We have a show in Orlando, and she's gonna be opening up. He's gonna perform. A couple other artists we have are gonna be, you know, that we work with a lot are gonna be performing. So it's exciting, man. It's
so cool to find people who are like-minded.
Yeah.
And it's funny how you could have people in your life forever, and if they don't operate on the same frequency as you and don't have the same conversations you're having, it's not to say that like your friendship changes or fizzles out, but it kind of does in its own right.
Yeah.
And you can meet someone 3, 4, 5 months ago, and they are, you know, the same way we just connected about the golden thread, and you're like, oh. Yeah. And then you guys are just on this path together. And it's when you find those like-minded people, it just adds fuel to the fire. It is this confirmation. And it does give you someone to go to in the moments where you're like, I'm struggling with this shit, man. And it's important to talk about that stuff too, because it's cool to be viral, and it's cool to have all these successes, and it's cool to have a men's social club. Yeah, so it's just important to connect with these individuals, and it adds as fuel, and it's important to connect with those people, and and find that support around you of people who want to raise you up and have those conversations, because they're important for the soul.
Yeah, I love that you're doing that. You're creating a space like that for men, you know, specifically here. I think that's just incredible. And having that for me and the men I'm around in the circle, the men I'm on the road with right now, it's truly uplifting. Like we all benefit each other. I think better, I dress better, I'm able to handle criticism better, I'm able to communicate better, all because we let down those walls, those egos, and we're able to really just like have that. Well, what do you think I could do better, bro? Like blah 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 blah. Like that just makes you
Yeah.
Makes you elevate like crazy. You know?
Yeah, collaboration, man.
Yeah, and that's why that's why we make music with so many people,
right,
as opposed to just writing by ourselves. Like I'm like, how can you help me get my story out better? That's just to answer your, you know how you said it's like a little disappointing sometimes when someone isn't writing their own music. I think that's why we do it. It's like, help me get this out of my head. Help me tell my story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. That's really a beautiful way to put it as well. Dude, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, man. This has been beautiful.
Awesome.
Beautiful. I appreciate you, bro.
Awesome.